We're so excited to be here again. I'm Jed Dorsey. If this is your first time tonight, welcome. Glad to be here and glad that you're with us. We are a small team of very dedicated and enthusiastic people here at Acrylic University. We love painting in acrylics. We love art. We love people, and we're glad that you're with us. I'm going to be painting tonight, and Peter's going to be in here with me, and we're going to be having a conversation. And the conversation includes you. So if you have things to say, look for the little chat bar there on YouTube. Sometimes if you're on your phone, I think it's right down below, or it's on the side. I think if you're on a desktop or something a little bit bigger. But please chime in. Let us know where you're coming from. Let us know what the weather's like. Tell us what your day was like. We're excited to hear from you, and we'll keep responding as the night goes on. So I'm going to be painting a painting in about, an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. We like to keep these really kind of short, and at the end of the night, I'm going to give my painting away. And if you're here, I'm going to give you the instructions on how you can win the painting. And so you're gonna just have to stick with us through the whole thing and be there at the end, and then I'll tell you what it is, and we'll give it away right then. So it's gonna be super fun. We also are gonna be painting this little alley scene. I'll show you what it is. Now, I want to say this because Roger, I don't know if you're with us today, Roger, but Roger from Australia sent me, I believe it was you, Roger, sent me a couple, an image that he thought would make a good picture, and it would. I just haven't done it because I had a couple other ones that I wanted to do. But if you think that you have an image that you would like to see painted, you're not going to get it necessarily because you still have to win it. But if you have something that you think would make a good painting and you want to send it my way, I'll receive that. Can't guarantee that I'll paint it, but I am looking for good things to paint all the time. And if you have something that you think would make something really great, then send it my way. This is an alley from Indianapolis where we used to live. Now, I'm going to be painting using very simple colors. I have white, cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, quinacridone red, ultramarine blue, black, and this is a gray. And so if you have basically a white and a black and a yellow, red, and blue, you'll be able to follow along fine. If you just want to watch, totally great too. You don't have to paint at all. I use these flat brushes. They range from around size 4 to about size 12. That's all that I really use on this. And I'm painting on a 12 by 16 canvas tonight that is toned black. Now, my wife asked me just a little bit ago, are you always going to paint on black? And the answer is, I don't know. I do paint on black right now for this because it's kind of what I started out doing, and it's kind of easy, and it's just what I like. It's one of the things that I like to do. But someday, probably I'll change that up, and I'll let you know beforehand. But tonight we're going to be painting on black. So I'm going to switch the view. Peter's going to come back in here really soon, and I'd love to hear where you're from. If this is your first time, please let us know it's your first time, and then we'll start this conversation. I'm going to switch the view so you can see what I'm working on, and we'll get started with the painting. So let me just go like this to make sure that's not on there. Okay, so here we go. We've got the canvas here. We've got our Masterson palette, and if you don't know about that, you can ask, but this has got a sponge underneath the paper, and it's really essential for painting in acrylics, I find, because it allows you to paint for a lot longer than if you were just trying to mix these paints on a plastic or paper or any kind of other surface. It would not allow you to mix for as long. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to grab some color here, and I often start with something like this, which is like an orange or a reddish color, and I'm going to start drawing this scene onto the canvas. And so tell us a little bit about where you're from right now. This is the alley, kind of goes up there. It's off to the right just a little bit, comes down something like this, comes down again, comes down, and then kind of comes over.
Yeah, Jed, it echoes really bad, so I'm just gonna.
Okay, we gotta.
Yeah, they said echo. So.
So you undid yours.
Yeah, I just.
Okay.
So we got Penelope from Chicago, Fran Santoro from Harbor Springs, Michigan, Jewel from Florida, Roger from Australia.
Roger, all right, you are with us.
Yeah. Diane from Michigan, Patricia from New Jersey.
Awesome.
Roxanne from Ottawa.
Okay, Roxanne. In fact, Roxanne, it was you that had come into my studio here on Camino, right? I think it was you. You said that you're gonna join us. That's awesome. It's so funny. So Roxanne reached out, and she's actually been here and came into my studio, but we just made that connection this week. Super cool.
Ashley, hi, I'm joining from Port Townsend, Washington.
All right.
Yeah, welcome.
Another Washingtonian.
Ashley, hi from Houston. Deb from Florida.
Awesome. So great. I love the internet. You know, like I don't love all aspects of the internet. Like sometimes it makes things kind of in your face all the time, but I love the fact that you can connect with people from around the world wherever you are.
Bev says echo made me miss the kind of palette. Could you repeat it? Hi.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, this is a Masterson Stay Wet palette. I'll grab the top of it so you can see what it is. But I'll also tell you that, so that's how you spell the name, Masterson. And you can find that at most paint stores. And if you don't have any of these things and you want to kind of know, you can always go to my website, jeddorseyart.com, and I actually have a page set up for this live event where I put my materials. So if you're interested in seeing what they are, I think that I have everything on there right now that we're going to use tonight. And if for some reason I don't, let me know, and it's just an oversight, and I'll put it there. We've got these great telephone poles. These add perspective, and we've got a couple other kind of houses that kind of come up. And I'm going to move that telephone pole over just a tad. So yeah, what was your day like? What was your week like? My week was pretty good. How was yours, Peter?
Mine was good.
Peter had a good week.
Mine was awesome.
Awesome.
Jed was out painting for a lot of the week, so I did a lot of other work. Yep.
So we kind of have the basic design, and there's maybe a couple things here that I'll continue to add. One thing, I'm just looking over here. Last week I remember at one point somebody was like, I wonder if he's gonna add. It's funny because I don't see your comments, but I do go back afterwards and sometimes try to look through. So I know that there's comments that are made and different things that are said that I might not respond to because we can't respond to everything, and not everything is directly directed towards me. But I do see them sometimes, and I thought it was kind of funny when somebody did say, because I think it was right before I said, yeah, I am gonna put these garbage cans in. Somebody was like, I wonder if he's gonna put the garbage cans in.
Yeah.
He said,
how's Silver?
Oh, Silver's doing good. Yeah, Silver's our cat. If you don't know, we got a kitten about a month ago, or it's been a while now. It's been almost a couple months, I guess. I don't know. Lose track of time with that little guy. It was the week after Easter, so I guess that is more like a month. But he's doing well. He's low. Like he's a beeline for the door. Like he loves going outside. He never really been outside until a couple weeks ago. We took him on a walk. We got this leash for him, and now he just loves going outside. So you have to be really careful. He'll like go for the door anytime. Now I'm gonna start blocking in colors here. Yeah, you have to like you have to, like, when we come home, we try to pay attention to, like, if we see him in the window or something, because he'll actually try to squeeze out the door, and I'm just worried that he's gonna try to go out the door sometime when it's closing and get squished in the door. He's not very smart. He's just like determined to get outside.
Your parents are here again, South Plano.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So we've got this. I'm just putting in some kind of purple violet color here on the road, and I'm gonna mix in some other different colors. So tomorrow is actually my mom's birthday. It's my mom's and my brother's birthday. So happy birthday, Mom. And happy birthday, Jason, if you're watching. Isn't that kind of cool to think that on your birthday you would have a son or a daughter? Like, it's kind of interesting, right? To share a birthday.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah, I don't know. But you know, I feel like it's a little bit more common than I I mean, I hear about it every once in a while. It's not that common though. I hear about close calls, like it almost landed. So when we paint on black like this, one of the things that we kind of pay attention to is the fact that the colors are always going to dry a little bit darker. Usually with acrylics, they'll dry darker, excuse me, anyways. But on the black surface, you're going to have that a little bit more, because you're going to get colors that are, the black is going to show through a little bit. They'll kind of be darkened up a little bit. So usually what I'm trying to do is get the darks and the midtones in a way that will allow me to keep adding color on top and lighter color on top too. So I'm not worried about getting the brightest colors in yet, because I'm building up towards that.
Michael says the odds are 0.2%.
0.2%. Whoa. Michael, nice job on that. Now, if that's, I mean, you could have just thrown that out there, of course, like, but if that's a real stat, I give you total props on that, man, because that's like pretty quick reaction time, getting a real accurate stat. Maybe we'll call you Stat Man. If we need a stat on something, we'll turn to you, Michael. You never know. Like, I'm okay at painting and I can talk. Not that I'm good at talking, but I talk a lot. But I'm not that much good at a lot of things, and we need a good team, you know, like, so I like the idea of you being our stat guy.
Yeah, there we go. Gabriel says, this is very similar to my first painting ever. Alley scene with trash cans and water down the middle. So happy to watch you build an alley scene.
Oh, cool. That's fun. First painting ever. Wow, that's pretty cool. I love painting alleys also. It's one of my kind of favorite subjects that I don't see quite as much in my daily life as I used to when we've lived in cities for most of our lives. My wife and I, since we've been married, but we don't anymore. So I'm usually pulling scenes like this from old reference photos. What made you interested in painting an alley? For me, the thing that's interesting about alleys is how diverse they are. Like, you don't see a lot of times, like, on the front side of the street, you know, you get all the pretty stuff, and you know, like, people basically make the front side of the house and all that stuff look really nice. But a lot of times the alley side is where you get the garbage cans. You get, kind of like the weird, stuff, cars parked in the road and different stuff that might not be exactly, fences, and I don't know, it's just a little different. And so I find that can be really fun to paint and fun to walk down and see what you discover. Like you might find a free TV or something like that. Alleys are always full of interesting stuff. So we've got a fence over here, and to keep that interesting, let's just use some different colors in it. And one thing that makes the painting kind of fun is if you can vary things, like if you have a pole, not to paint the pole the exact same color all the way from the top to the bottom, but change the color a little bit as it goes up. But like I said before, I do a lot of instruction. I really am interested in what you guys are thinking about tonight.
Creating Art says hello from Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
Adrian says Adrian. Hello from Edmonton, Alberta.
Oh, awesome. Edmonton, Alberta. Now, did you know? I'm just trying to think. Adrian. My wife is from Edmonton. We go there usually at least once a year. Renee goes there a couple times a year usually. Actually, Sherwood Park, southeast of the city. Not exactly in Sherwood Park. They're in the country, but very cool. So a lot of times in this kind of situation, I'll build from the foreground towards the background also. I like to kind of paint that way. Got another fence over here. Last time, I don't know, I'm going to try to keep track of the time a little bit better. I felt like last time I actually finished fine, but I got caught a little bit looking at, like, late in the game. I looked at my watch and I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to get this done real fast. And I actually had a little bit more time than I first thought, but.
Todd says, thinking about how good this cappuccino tastes. Nice.
Todd. Now that's Todd. Our Todd, right?
Yep. Todd Gardner.
Sweet Todd.
Joanne
good to see you.
Says, thinking about going hiking if weather permits it, and of course painting more flowers.
What do you mean, of course painting more flowers? Have you been painting lots of flowers? I haven't seen if you've been posting stuff as much this week, but the flowers are out, aren't they? I actually, man, I got so into painting flowers during the flower module. That was really fun. Maybe I should paint flowers sometime.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Ashley Quinn asks, do you use any other mediums?
No, I don't. I'm just dipping straight in the paint and no mediums. I don't think mediums for me are as helpful, because in my painting process I like to paint as directly as I can, and the mediums they just kind of slow me down a little bit, because then I'd have to add medium to each brush stroke, and that can be a little bit tedious for me, but it doesn't mean it's not a good process for somebody else. It's just kind of my way. I actually didn't look. This is a good example of what not to do. I didn't look at my reference, and I made a couple marks that were not that accurate. I put light where it was actually supposed to be a little bit more like a shadow.
Michael asks, where do you post?
Where do I post?
Because you were talking about Johanna posting in the community.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we run Acrylic University, and Acrylic University is we have a Facebook community that is for members, and we also have a challenge group that's open to anybody. If you want to be part of that, you can look up For the Love of Acrylics. It's a painting challenge group, and we host different challenges and stuff in there. But I think that you're referring to what I was referring to was our Acrylic University community. So if you want to like I don't actually look at these tons, like I look at this as like a fun time to hang out and get to know each other and that kind of thing. I don't view it so much as a time to teach, because well, it's hard to interact and teach at the same time exactly. It's also not what this is so designed for. So I mean, I know that might be frustrating for somebody who's out there who says, well, I want to learn, but we have lots of stuff that you can learn from on our website, and I teach there all the time. So that's why this is a little bit less teaching oriented and more hang out. I think if you're paying attention, you can still observe quite a bit and definitely glean different things from these. But yeah, if you're interested at all, we are actually going to open the doors again for new members in June, and it'll be the last time we do it until September, because we're not going to take any members over the summer months. So heads up, if you are interested and want to see what that's about, then go to acrylicuniversity.com and sign up on the waiting list, and then we'll let you know when the doors open.
Carol Pierce says, do you wash off your paints and reuse the Masterson Stay Wet paper?
Yeah, totally. That's why it's like this. You can kind of see grubby, paint stains on there. Yeah, I wash it off and reuse it because it's definitely good for more than one use. You can get quite a bit out of it.
Someone asked, when you finish a painting, do you use a varnish?
Yes, I use a varnish. And I should clarify, because I told somebody that I don't use any mediums, but I do use mediums. It's just not for my normal painting. But if I was doing a glaze, which is where you put on paint and change the color, like kind of by putting a transparent paint over your opaque paints, when they're dry. That is something that I do, and I use a medium for that. Like I would use a gloss medium or something like that, and it would thin down the paint, and it would make it more transparent, and I would mix that with a little bit of water. But in general, just when I'm painting like this, no, I don't use mediums. But yes, I do varnish my paintings when I'm done, because varnish is what's going to protect your paintings. Like your paint, you don't want it to be on the very outside. You don't want stuff to be touching your paint. You would rather have layers of varnish. Like what the best way to do it is to put an isolation layer of varnish, like a kind of a nice varnish, and then there's a couple different kinds of varnish that you can use, but what I would recommend would be to use something that's a little bit thicker, like I have a Utrecht brand varnish that's pretty thick, and I would put that on as an isolation coat, and I'd always do that even if you're going to go over it with something that's not gloss, I'd do that isolation coat in a gloss, and then I'd put on the subsequent like layer or layers if you want to do more than one in whatever like satin sheen that you like. So we've got these trees that kind of come up like that over there, and I'm gonna start putting in this building here because I want to get that kind of going. It's kind of a light kind of blue-green. And I think it's kind of a cool building here. Man, I was kind of late in sending out my text. Now, if you want to be on our texting list, make sure that you send us your, well, send me a text. Send it to my phone number. My texting phone number is 425-800-8010, and just send me a text, and I'll add you to the list of people if you want to get a text reminder. We found that texting is the best way to actually reach people. Like if you need to get something to them that's kind of like time oriented, like these, to say, hey, going live, here's the link, then make sure you send me a text and we'll add you to the list. And if you ever want to get off of it, that's fine. Just reply and say stop, and we'll stop sending it to you. And we're okay with that because it costs us money to send the text. And if you don't want to get it, we don't want to send it.
You should see if we have any newcomers.
Do we have any newcomers? Good idea, Peter. Yeah, I said that earlier, but I wasn't around. Is anybody here for the first time? We'd love to hear from you. I'm not here for the first time. This is my shoot. I don't know, how many times have we done this?
I don't know, like 4 or 5.
Well, I think we've done it more than that on Facebook, because we started on Facebook, but maybe it's not that many more. Peter's usually right.
Creating art, yep. We do one newcomer.
Okay, yeah, I didn't recognize creating art. Now that's an interesting name. Creating Mr. Art, Mrs. Art. I don't know. Are you a man or a woman? I don't know. I can't joke around if I don't know. I'm just joking.
Miss Art.
Miss Art. All right. Miss Art. Coming in from Arizona. Now, hey, I got some exciting news, everybody. I am going back to the plein air convention. I actually found out today that they have a spot for me to teach again on the stage, which is really cool. As long as the plein air convention actually happens, which I guess is maybe more of the issue at this stage. But that is down in Santa Fe in October. Did I say October? That's something else. In August. There's something else that I'm trying to do in October. That's the Laguna Beach plein air competition, festival, whatever you want to call it.
Kristen Waite says, first time here, have been following Jed for a while on Instagram.
Okay, awesome. Kristen, welcome. Glad to have you. How'd you know? Was it because of an Instagram post, or how'd you actually get to this? Because I did put an Instagram post out there super late in the day. I was kind of late on all accounts today, Peter. Sorry about that.
I sort of was too. Oh, Miss Art, her name is Charlotte. So.
Charlotte, okay, cool. So awesome. Yeah, super glad you're here.
Gene Hudson, hi from Napanee, Ontario, tuning in for the first time.
Okay, nice. Very nice. Now, to all the Canadians out there, I need to just say this again. I'm a dual citizen. I'm a Canadian. My wife, Renee, is a beautiful Canadian from Edmonton, Alberta. And I'm a beautiful Canadian now, too. Well, that's a stretch, but I don't know how they let me in. You know how they let me in? Money. That's all it comes down to. I don't know if everybody knows this about Canada, but Canada is all about the money, man. When you get to that immigration meeting, because I'm like going to my immigration meeting, right? And they're telling me, well, you've got to have studied and do like know your history of Canada and all this stuff. And you know what happened when I got in there? I'm thinking that I'm going to show up and there's going to be like me and the judge across the table from me, and he's going to grill me and ask me questions like, when was Canada, when did Canada become a country, and who's the first prime minister of Canada, and all this kind of stuff, right? And so I'm kind of nervous walking in. That I walk in this room and I'm one of probably like 150 people, 200 people in this big room, and I'm given a number, and I just go and I sit like over in my designated chair next to the number next to me, and we all just sat there and waited as they kind of like took their time and called us up one by one. And all it was, I started just realizing like, oh my goodness, like we're all here, we all paid like a lot of money to be here. They just made a ton of money right now.
Did you have to answer a bunch of questions?
I only had to answer, was I convicted of a felony? Have I been convicted of a felony? And have I been deported from Canada? And as long as I answered those things correctly, they helped me with the singing of, I had to sing the Canadian national anthem. And then we raised our hands and we pledged allegiance to the Queen of England, which was like, that was honestly the most interesting part about it. Like, it was weird. I just felt like, oh, I didn't know I was going to have to pledge allegiance to the Queen.
Kristen Waite says, I live in Indy and found you that way. Then saw the text today. So that's
okay, gotcha. Very cool.
Todd Gardner, did they ask if you play ice hockey?
Yeah, that would have been appropriate, man. Like, well, you know what's funny, Todd, is when I moved to Canada, I used to hate hockey. I grew up close enough to the Canadian border that we could catch some Canadian TV. And it used to bother me because all winter long, the only thing they would ever show on the Canadian channels was hockey. Or if I went to a friend's house and we were watching ESPN sports highlights, and they would come on with hockey highlights, and I didn't care at all about hockey. I'd get so bored and kind of upset that they were showing hockey highlights. And then I moved to Canada, and within like a couple months, I realized like they don't have any other sports to, like, nothing compares. I mean, they have sports, they have all the other sports, but nothing compares to hockey. And I say all this because I love Canada, but it was like these little adjustments that I realized over time. Like on the surface, I'm like, oh, I live in Canada, big difference. Like there's like it's no difference at all. Like that's what I thought at first, like there'd be no difference really. And all the differences came out over the course of time. I didn't realize it right away, but it's like all these little things that were like quite culturally really different. And I think it was really good for me as an American. In fact, I think it'd be good for all Americans to go live in a different country at some point in their life, just to see what it's like to be a foreigner, for one, and also to see what it's like like what other people think about America that aren't American, you know? Like we live kind of sometimes an isolated life, and we don't always have a good perspective on, oh, what does the world think of us? I thought it was really interesting and made lots of really amazing friends. So what can I ask now, Peter?
I don't know. Johan says, I miss poutine and ketchup chips, not hockey. I don't know.
Yeah. Poutine is like, well, it's kind of like fries that have gravy on them. It's like, it's definitely a Canadian thing. And ketchup chips, yeah, that's funny. That is totally another Canadian thing, isn't it? I forgot about that.
Fries with squeaky cheese and brown sauce. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like at first I didn't even want to touch poutine because I was like, that's wrecking the fries, you know, but I like poutine now. I don't think that I order it like a Canadian might. But there's also, man, let's see. I'll try to think of another difference or another thing that I noticed over time. Well, there's a lot of words that you don't know at first are said differently, and then over time you do kind of realize, like, you know, everybody says the common Canadian like stereotype is to say a, you know, and I feel like where I lived, at least, that was not a normal thing that people said, really. Like it was not kind of like in Vancouver, it didn't seem like that many people spoke like that. But there are other parts of the country where I do hear it a lot, and through other people. But yeah, Renee does some. Yeah, and but there were other things, like the way you say, like for instance, this is one that I still say. I grew up saying, I'm gonna go on the, you know, oops, sorry, I dropped my microphone. I'm gonna go on the roof of the house. I'm gonna go on the roof of the house. And in Canada, what they would say is the roof of the house. And I actually thought that made more sense because it sounds less like a dog barking and more like something that protects your house. So I say roof, not roof. I can't even say it now.
That's crazy. I've always said roof.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know always what like is just like really local, like to, you know, where I grew up or my family, or what is more like American. I know there's a lot of changes and differences, right, within the states, depending on where you're from.
Adrian says, tell Jed his marketing is working. That's how I found out about this.
Oh, good. That's great. What marketing though?
It's a lot of different things.
I know, where it is always interesting. You know, sometimes like marketing is, man, oh goodness, that just started me thinking about a whole rabbit trail. I'm not going to go there, except for the fact that I get lots of marketing emails because, you know, when you're doing something that's kind of business oriented and you ever click on anything that is trying to like teach you about business, then everybody thinks, oh, this guy wants to buy my course, or this guy wants to like learn from me. So they try to advertise you with everything that they have. And what I want to do is make a spoof, because so many of these guys, like, they come up with, it's just like kind of funny. It's like, and anyways, I just kind of want to make a spoof ad for something like that because they're so over the top sometimes. Has anybody seen what I'm talking about? Is anybody out there know what I'm referring to? Like the ads that say like, with this one simple trick, I went from 0 to 10 million in the first year of my business, and now I want to just teach other people and help them. It's like, has anybody seen an ad like that, or is it just people like me who get stuck watching all those things?
Kristen Waite says, do you think you picked up a new accent? I had a roommate from Chicago and was shocked how quickly my vowels changed to hers.
Oh, totally. I think that I did change, and it's subtle, and it's kind of like, it's kind of easy to not notice it right away, especially for my, like, I think it just naturally kind of happens. My mom used to say that my dad would go down to the neighbors and come back talking like him after an hour. So I think it's kind of the same with me. I think that I just, like, imperceptibly, and we're all listening to each other. And I don't know how some people don't do it. Like, I've met people who moved, from England or something like 35 years ago, and they still talk with a total English British accent. And I think, how did you keep your accent this whole time? Because, like, I feel like I go somewhere and I really do kind of start talking like the other people, like whoever it is, really quickly. I don't know how that works.
Elizabeth said, spent a lifetime watching those horrible commercials. Grateful to have learned to ignore the clickbait.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes I still like watching them. I actually, because I feel like they're kind of funny now. It's like, if I see a new one or a new person, I'm like, oh, what's this guy gonna tell me now?
Which is why it's so impressive if somebody can sell us on something.
I know.
It's
also kind of funny to read the comments, because there's so many people that have been through 1,000 of them, and oh my goodness.
Martha Towner says, ever since I started Acrylic University, I get loads of art ads.
Oh no. That's hilarious. Yeah, I think it's kind of true. I mean, we don't have an ad out there or anything like that, so I don't know why that would have happened, except that yeah, I get lots of art ads too, actually. And I always click on those ones too, until I've seen them. But every once in a while, I come across ads that are like, man, is this guy telling the truth? Because the same ad said today only like 5 months ago. And I'm like, what's going on here? Is it today, comma, only? Or is it today? Like, what's going on? But we all, I suppose, are doing our best. Okay, so I'm gonna start putting in some of this tree over here, and just some these different branches. Can you believe that it's almost June? I mean, I know we're still a week away, but time is flying. I don't know what happened.
Oh, Doug says those live webinars drive me nuts when you know they're canned. Yeah, it's so dumb.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend who's, well, he's he helps us with finances, and I was talking to him about ads the other day, and he said, the problem with ads is that in terms of, like, we're competing, whoever you are, if you're running ads, you're kind of, even though your product might be totally different, you're still kind of competing with the really big people like Apple and Amazon and Nike and whoever it is, right? Because like we all have just a limited amount of space and attention and kind of that whole thing. And those big companies are putting so many millions and millions of dollars into an ad, and you're competing with them on trying to attract somebody. We've found that, like, I don't know, ads, we've thought about trying to run ads, and we've tried a few different times, and it's hard. It's like, how do you, because I firmly believe that what we do is valuable, totally believe in it, like we are 100% on that, but to try to convince somebody else that what you have would actually be helpful for them or good for them or like useful, it's like you need somebody else to speak on your behalf more than you need your own words to speak on your behalf. And so it's kind of like we found that the best advertising is just to do what you do and do it well, and let other people talk about it and try to recommend other people, because that's going to be more effective than shouting your own praises. Now there's some reflected light back here. That's why I put in that light bit there, but it's all of this is, I'm still kind of getting the some of these colors and values, they're being adjusted little by little, but I'm going to come back over some of this and do more as we go, because I haven't put in the lightest colors back there yet. Well, I am thankful for you guys who are here, and I'm thankful for Peter and Renee and the different people. We've had help from a lot of different people over the months, and it's almost a year. We launched Acrylic University in June of last year. That was when we actually opened the doors and like took in the first students. We'd had a beta test that happened before that, but that was when we actually opened the doors for real live students. And it's been the kind of thing that you think, man, there's no way that, I don't know how people are they call it solopreneur, like you're a one-man team or one-woman team. I don't know how anybody does that, like with anything. I just feel like I can hardly tie my own shoes, let alone like do something that's, kind of trying to be worthwhile and good in the world. So I'm adding a little bit of cooler color. Some of these, there's a tree back here that looks like it's a little bit more in the shadow, and I think that this painting is going to benefit from having a few different greens that are a little bit cooler.
Zerka asks, how do you translate in your mind a different color on canvas than what is on the original? For instance, your road color is completely different.
Well, yeah, a lot of times I just make stuff up, Zerka. And I also am looking at the colors that are there and thinking, well, if I exaggerated them, what would they maybe look like? And there's definitely some light bluish colors that I see. And this right up here is actually, you can't see it super well in the photo, but this and this there's some brick. This is an old brick alley. And I know because I lived there, and so I know that is actually got some red in it. And so it's not so much down here. I kind of added purple down here, but up here there's some brick, and it does have red, but the reflected light is very cool on that. So I'm kind of drawing from a little bit of what I know of the street, and I'm also drawing a little bit from just kind of what I might want it to look like, and imagine, what if I exaggerated? Oh my goodness, sorry about that. What if I exaggerated my colors a little bit more? So I'm gonna make this alley just a little bit bigger right here, because I feel like
Johanna adds, the values are more important than the colors, so he gets away with it.
yeah, that's a good thought. Yeah, the values definitely are the most important part of it. And if you squint your eyes, it probably will line up a little bit closer than the actual hue of the color. At least that's what I'm hoping it will. So let's get some leaves in here. Now, what I like about this scene is that it's got a lot of shadow, but then up at the top of the painting, it's quite warm and lit up by the sun. And that kind of contrast is always a nice contrast, because we get to see that, just the comparison of the cool versus the warm and how they work together. And you kind of want to keep your paintings dominant one way or the other. So this is a little bit more of a dominant cool painting, and then the top where the highlights are is going to be the warmer part. It's also going to be the lightest part, so it's working both of those things kind of at the same time.
Nakib says it's morning in Bangladesh.
Whoa, hey, welcome. Now, how do you spell that?
N-A-Q-U-I-B.
Okay, Nakib. Sorry if we are mispronouncing your name, but yeah. Welcome. We're glad that you're with us. Super fun to have you. And good morning. Where else is it morning? It's midday where Roger is. I remember it's like noon or so. But I know, I wonder if Shalom is with us, because he was with us last time and it was 4 in the morning. Which I can't even say how much I'm thankful that you guys would, make an effort to join us at such hours like that. We're really grateful for that. I'm gonna put a little bit more over here too. There's actually I can't see everything, but I think that there's some different like bushy kind of leaves and stuff over here. So I'm gonna put those in. They look like they're light. The thing that happened is I printed off this picture, and about the first 3/4 of it came out perfect, and then the very end it's like our printer was running out of some ink, and so I can't really see what the colors over here as well. So I'm kind of making a little bit of this up, but I know that I can see some leaves, and I like all the leaves and the blossoms. This was a spring evening, and this is back in Indianapolis. I can't remember if I said where this was, but it's really close to where we used to live. We used to live right up, if you walked up this way, and right about there, our house was like Oh, actually, I'm just thinking it was down this road, just one house over. I was a little bit confused. So this was kind of like our back alley.
Bev asks, what size brush are you using now?
I have a number 6 in my hand and a number 4 that I just switched to. So the one that you asked about, I think, was a number 6. It's a flat, and these are Princeton Catalyst brushes. Again, if you want to see the brushes themselves, you can go to my website, jedddorseyart.com, and you can see they're also, we have a list on Acrylic University, but I think I made it a little bit more extensive on jedddorseyart.com, and click on the button that says learn more about the live stuff, and you'll scroll down and you'll see all the colors down there. Colors, brushes. I even talk about the palette, and I believe even the canvases. And I have some links for all that stuff. So starting to add some of the highlights up here. And I'm going to go ahead and bring a little bit of, as things go away from you, you can add a little bit of blue and take out a little bit of red and yellow, and that will give the appearance. And they generally get a little bit lighter also, but all that stuff will add a little bit of the sense of distance and atmosphere. And so, man, you know what we didn't have this week in our community? We didn't have our live Q&A. So I feel like I missed you all this week. It's good to be together tonight.
Gene Hudson says, I'm noticing your paint pots look a bit like a meds container. Great idea.
It's a bead box from Michael's. That's where I got mine. Or actually, I might have got it at Hobby Lobby, but you could get it kind of anywhere that sells beads. But yeah, they're super great because you can store a lot of paint. It doesn't really dry out that fast. And I'm pretty sure that's pretty standard. Anybody from Acrylic University out there who has found, I mean, it's pretty much like you guys like it, right? I don't think I'm the only one that is a huge fan of that. For me, it was a game changer. I was able to, when I started using the paint box like that, bead box, I was able to paint outside. I was able to do all sorts of stuff that it just kind of opened up the doors for me to do different things than I'd really been able to do. And so huge fan, really love it.
Todd Gardner says, yes, I just bought one like yours from Michael's last week. And then Susie Crawford says it works really well.
Cool. Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I know it has for me, and most of the people that I've talked to, have had positive thoughts, but and a lot of the artists that I've looked at also, like professional artists that I kind of know who work in acrylics, they also use similar things, if not the exact thing.
Joanne says, yes, I like it. It kept my paint wet for 5 months now.
Sheesh, isn't that awesome? That's the part about it, is like you can just, and especially if you're just adding paint to it. I mean, like if you run out, add a little bit more. It's never going to dry out, I don't think. And especially like some of you, in fact, there was somebody in our community who gave me the idea of putting it in a Ziploc bag. When you're done with it, just put the whole box in a Ziploc bag, and then there's going to be no airflow at all, and it's totally not going to dry out. And if it wasn't already super awesome, something like that can make it, even better than you thought.
Todd Gardner says, Jed, the paint or the bead/paint box and the Stay Wet palette have enabled me to enjoy acrylics.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I mean, I was using, when I first started, I didn't know about the palette. The palette was the first thing for me that changed and made it so like, oh, okay, you know, I never actually thought that much about it because I got that pretty early on. But then and I guess that it's funny because I think that so many people have never made those discoveries or seen it, that I think there's still a lot of people that don't know how great you can you know, mix colors and do everything, because it is a game changer and it makes it very enjoyable when it would be frustrating. If all this paint was dry right now, I would never be able to dip back into it, and that'd be very frustrating for me because I've already made some good mixes in there that I can reuse. But as long as they stay wet for me, then I can get right back in there.
Here comes the jetting. Love this part of the painting. Yeah, Raquel Roth. My favorite part of the painting is coming up now. Here comes the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've said this before a bunch of times, but you know, I spend most of my paintings building up towards this point, and it's the last 10% that is so fun because you can kind of see it all, and it all kind of can come together. But the other part of the painting is what makes this part. Oops, I don't want to do that right there. But that's what makes this part of the painting fun. And if we didn't do the other 90%, this part would be kind of, it wouldn't be as interesting. But this is definitely my favorite part of the painting too.
Vera says, I'm learning that each stroke is thought out, applied deliberately, and left alone. It must be why you can paint so quickly too. Your paintings look so confident as they develop.
Well, you know, Vera, there is something about, you know, like confidence and being able to paint quickly, and they go together a little bit. And it also has to do with efficiency, because if you're the more that you go down and you do something, you know, like if the more that I have gone through this process, then I know what will happen if I do certain things, and it does give me a lot of freedom and confidence that something's going to do something. But that doesn't mean that it's always like I pick up my paintbrush and it's easy. There's still a lot of times that my if I'm left to myself, I can be tentative. I can second guess things. And so sometimes I actually find that setting arbitrary goals and things, or maybe time limits, it will actually force your hand into being more decisive and doing things that way. I know this to be true partly because when I've taught workshops, there have been times when I often will give people a lesson, like, and I'll say, okay, I want you to do this, and I want you to do this in, you know, half an hour. This is, you have a time limit. I want you to paint this little painting, and I'm going to give you half an hour. And that will be really kind of scary for people the first time they do it. And often they really don't like that. But if we do it again the second day of the workshop, or if we do it again, you know, the later in the day, and if we do it like 2 or 3 times, by the third or fourth time, people are feeling way more confident about it. they know what to expect, and they can pull off pretty amazing paintings when they never thought that they could in such a short amount of time. And I think a lot of times it's just because when they actually get into it, they know what to expect and they're not panicked. They just let their instincts go, and they just are, instead of thinking and hesitating and you know, like kind of like doing what happens so often to us, they're just allowing their kind of gut and their eyes to tell them what to do. And they have, it's been kind of amazing to me, really, to see how well people do with that. And so I recommend, if you find that that's something that you're kind of struggling with, I would actually recommend setting yourself some arbitrary time goals and saying, I'm only giving myself 40 minutes to work on this painting, and just forcing yourself to do it, because it might, if you do it enough times, it might end up being a big help and something that will benefit you, you know, in terms of being able to see colors, mix things, operate. And it might be hard to do by yourself, but if you can figure out how to do that, that's why, like for me on these kind of nights, I don't have time to sit around and think too much. I just have to put down color. I have to put it down kind of fast. I have to be kind of bold, and I have to move on. And or else I'm not going to get done. Everybody's going to leave, and the painting will be unfinished, and everybody will go home sad, and I'll be sad, and you know, it's going to be a miserable night for everybody. So yeah. But I think that it's true. I think a lot of times it's just more about practice, and I think that do it enough times and you'll feel pretty confident in it. And I think that you could do some pretty amazing stuff that you never really thought you could.
Someone asks, how do you keep your brush cleaned and wet? Do you use water ever?
Yeah, and I have a paper towel. I think you can see it, but I wipe it off sometimes on there, and then I have water up here, and so every once in a while I clean off my brushes with water. But sometimes I'm just going from one color to another color that's close enough that I don't really feel like I need to wash it off. And so you may see me every once in a while do something like I switch from this green to this blue to that brown, and I don't really clean it because I don't really need to, in my opinion. I'm gonna intermix those colors a little bit anyways or something, and I don't necessarily feel like it has to be a perfectly clean brush to do it.
Jason asks, why does Jed wear so many wristbands?
Who's Jason, my brother?
Dorsey, yeah.
Jay, what's up, man? Well, these are my wristbands that kind of remind me of who I am. There's several that have verses on them, and they remind me that, well, one of the reasons, this goes back to somebody else asked, or I was actually saying at the beginning, like, why will I always paint on black? Renee, my wife, she was asking me if I was always going to paint on black. And I said, well, I don't know. Right now I am. I probably won't forever. But one of the reasons that I paint on black is because it reminds me of who I am too. It reminds me of how my life was a mess and full of pain and lifelessness because of my own problems, my own struggles, my own addictions, and how I feel like God brought life and color and good things into what was otherwise just a complete mess. And so it's kind of fun to paint on black because it's like it reminds me of that. And that's just the same thing as these wristbands are actually, they remind me of things that are true. And so they say they're just reminders basically that tell me who I am. And I need that because I forget. I think we all tend to forget things that are important, you know, and we often need reminders.
Carol Cho asks, do you have an organized way that you work around your work, like painting the house toward the end of your work?
Carol, that's a good question. Sometimes when I paint on black, I tend to paint from the foreground to the background. And so I will kind of develop this area and then this area and then the sky. And that's pretty much what I did tonight, but it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes I go back and forth, but I'm mostly working from dark to light. That's kind of the other thing that in general I'm trying to do, because I usually want my darks to be kind of thin in terms of the paint and the thickness of the actual paint, and then I want my lights to be thicker, and I want them to be on top of the darks. And so those are a couple things, and then when I'm painting here, I'm just kind of like looking at the overall scene and thinking about, sometimes it's just like I worked over here for a while, then I was like, okay, I need to paint this house, and sometimes it's relative to where the other objects are. Like I need to paint the house so that I know where to put the tree, or I need to paint the roof so that I can fill in the other roof that's behind it, that kind of thing. It's a little bit of planning, and then some of it is just reacting to what is going on and what I've already done.
Vera asks, when I try to paint plein air, I need to take a picture on my iPad and use that on location. It defeats the purpose, I think. How do you reduce the outdoor scene to fit to your canvas?
Oh, well, who asked that?
Vera.
Okay, Vera, that's something that I think there's lots of people who do that kind of thing. I do that sometimes when I'm painting outside for that exact reason. Like I'll try to hold up my hands. When I go outside, I hold my hands up like this in front of my face, and I try to if I'm painting on a square canvas, then I try to make my hand into a square, or if it's a rectangle, then I try to find kind of the dimensions. And then imagine that you're looking through my hand and you're looking at this scene and you're going, oh, does that make a nice scene? Well, what if it was a little bit bigger? Okay, what if it was a square? And I'm going around this scene kind of like looking, where would these dimensions be good? And so I do this a lot with my hands when I'm outside, but it also can be done through the lens of your camera or through your phone, doing the exact same thing, and just like zooming in and out, trying to see where would a good border be for this and this and this and this. And either way, you have to define the edges of your painting. Somebody once said, like, the most important marks on your painting, or the most important lines on your painting, are these edges right here. They really are. And a lot of times we don't think about that so much, but that becomes a huge factor in the overall design and whether a painting really kind of is working in the big picture. So doing that work, however you do it, whether it's with your phone or whether it's with your hands, it's definitely worth it. And I don't think that it's cheating to use your phone either. I think, if you're painting from a picture, then it does kind of defeat the purpose to why you're outside. But if you're using that to get yourself set up and to maybe do your sketch onto your canvas so that you are using the right kind of area, then I think that you're well within the bounds of what I think is good and reasonable for painting outside. Part of it is like, it's also scale, stuff like that. Okay, guys, here's the deal. I'm going to give this painting away. Does anybody out there want it? My worst fear is that no one says they want it. But here's the deal. We're going to give this away. And today I have a different way for you to win it. Now, what I need you to do is, if you want to win it, you're going to have to text me again. My number that you want to text me at is, I'm going to give you the number, and I'm going to eventually I'll give you the instructions. So don't text me until I tell you exactly what to text me, because if you text me, you're not going to be entered anyways, because I have very specific things. So here's my number: 425-800-8010. And Peter's going to put that in the comments right now. 425-800-8010. And here's the deal. I want you to send me a text with just one word on it. And it's one word that is, you don't put any other words in there. Don't say your name on this one. Don't do anything like that. Just send this one word, and it's going to enter you. And tonight we're going to pick what number, Peter? You tell me. Peter's spinning. No, we are, because it's going to its own list.
Oh, right. Okay. So you know the word?
I do.
Okay.
Peter's coming up. His brain is now spinning a big giant ball or something that has numbers on it, and it's coming up with a very arbitrary number, and the number is
36.
36. If you are number 36.
No, it might be too high.
Okay, that's too high.
22.
Number 22. If you have the number 22, if you are number 22 that signs in, here's the word that you have to text me. I haven't told you yet, so I shouldn't be feeling a bunch of buzzing in my pocket like I am, okay? Don't text me yet. I haven't told you what the word is. This is the word right here. The word alley. Just the word alley. Send the word alley to me, because this is a scene of an alley. And if you are number 22, you are going to win this painting right here. So, anyways, just the word alley. Just the word alley. So last week, let's see, who won last week? I can't remember. I'm trying to think here. Oh.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Okay, I can feel the text coming in now. Good.
Okay, we have 57, so 36 would have been fine.
Okay.
I will look.
Okay, awesome. And if you can do me this favor, if you have not given me your phone or your name before on this, could you also just send me a text with your name, your first and last name, because that's really helpful for me. Like sometimes when I'm trying to figure out who somebody is, and all I have is a phone number, and it's not saved in as a contact. It's always super nice for me to be able to go back and go like, oh, okay, this is who that was, because I hate the idea of not knowing who I'm talking to and interacting. So if you can, that would be super awesome. So let's see. I think that this painting is looking pretty good. I feel like it's got the gist of what I had set out to do down here. And so do you have a person for us there, Peter? Do you have a winner? Figuring it out?
Well, I'm wondering how you see who's in the keyword. Oh, never mind. I was clicking on it, but it wasn't working before.
Oh, okay.
We're good. Okay, let me see here.
So we're gonna have to go with a number right now. So listen, here's the deal. Well, you might just have to send them a text back right now and then get their name.
Yeah, no. Yolanda Calderon.
Yolanda. Okay, awesome. Yolanda, and I think it said Calderon.
Yeah,
Yeah, Yolanda, awesome. Well, congratulations. You just won this painting, and I'm going to switch this whole thing back, and we're going to, let me see if I can do this. Okay, well, congratulations, Yolanda. Super glad that you were here and able to win this painting. I'm going to just hold it up real quick and say a few things. Like I'll probably do just a little bit more work on here, but we were able to kind of get like the feeling of shadow and light and the cool versus the warmth. And I love alleys, and I can't remember who it was who said that their very, very first painting ever was an alley, but I hope that this was fun for you to see it come together. And please join us next week. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to write the text, a text to that number that was on the form there. It's 425-800-8010, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Also, check out Acrylic University. We'd love for you to join us. We're going to open up our doors in June again for the last time before September. So make sure that if you want to be part of what we're doing, that you come on right now and join the waiting list, and we'll let you know when we open the doors. Otherwise, you guys have a wonderful weekend. We love you. You matter. You are a work of art yourself, and so glad that you were here with us. Thanks for being here. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.